Arcane, huh? Alright, before I begin, we all know the state of Arcane Season 2 discourse, right? I want to state my credentials, as it were, because I want everyone watching this video to understand that I was on this show's side until the bitter end. I hyperfixated on this show in a way that my brain has never hyperfixated before. My friends joke that I've seen this show about 20 times, and they probably aren't joking. I say probably because I lost track after the 10th. I sent this video to people comparing clips of Season 1 to Season 2, and I was confused when they had to wait until they got home to watch it, because I forgot that other people can't identify which season a clip is from purely from listening to it. And I don't know if I can say this all with pride, by the way, because it is rather humiliating to tell people that Arcane is my favorite TV show and have them say the League of Legends anime. I don't know. Don't even look at me. This is just to clarify that I am not normal about this show, and so it breaks my heart when I say that this season sucks. Hear me out. Hear me out. The thing that basically anyone says the moment you bring up Season 2 is, oh, it would have been great, they just needed more time. Oh, the pacing was way too fast. Ah, the breakneck pacing, the pacing. I'm pacing the halls ranting about it. The thing is, I'm not entirely sold. Obviously, I agree that the show was really rushed. I mean, look at it. But I'm not convinced that more time was a solution to this. I think there are some real issues happening on a deeper level here. There's too much going on all at once in this show to talk about all at once, so I'm gonna take this slowly. We're gonna go mostly chronologically, except for some points when we will have to take detours. Bear with me, we'll get through it together. I'm also gonna stop and point out things that I think are cool and work, because I'm not just a hater. Like I said, I loved this show, and sometimes a bit of that goodness still shines through. Okay? Get cozy, this is gonna take a while. We open on the immediate aftermath of Jinx's rocket attack on the council building. This is a cool scene, in my opinion. Mel and Jace are all disoriented and holding each other. Everything is shrouded in this cool red fog. The audio is really muffled. It's all very immersive. I'm really into it. We confirm that a handful of council members have in fact died, and then, Victor also. Jace freaks out and immediately takes him to the lab? Okay. And then fuses him with the hex core. Listen, in theory, really cool start. Something I think is really important to talk about, especially with fast-paced shows like this, is understanding why something happens versus how. Some people really like to pick apart how characters know something or don't know something, and be so for real for a moment, sometimes it just doesn't matter. How does Vander know where Vi is to go save her after seeing Powder with her bunny? I don't know, it's not important. What matters is that we know why he goes to save her. It's the same with this scene. How does Jace know that the hex core will save Victor's life? I don't know, it doesn't matter. What matters is why he does this, and the answer is because that's his freaking life partner, man. Jace will betray his morals in a heartbeat if it means saving someone he loves. Man would flunk the trolley problem, he's too much of a sweetie pie. So as I was saying, this scene is cool. Jace immediately betrays his best friend in the name of helping him, and it kickstarts Victor's path down the road to become his League incarnation, which, as we know, he has to end up as. Right? Who knows? Anyway, roll credits. Guess who else is dead? Caitlyn's mom! We get this music video funeral with this really well-acted scene of Caitlyn's face, and then that's over and we have politics to talk about. Mel is chilling in the bombed meeting room, which, I mean, you could nitpick, but the set piece is way too cool not to use, come on. She and the remaining council members, they being Sallow and this woman, talk about how to react. Sallow's in a fancy wheelchair now, and I like the detail that no one bothered to build ramps into the council chamber. That's the sort of environmental storytelling that Season 1 is crazy at. I love this. Anyway, these three jokesters bicker about how to deal with the Undercity, but really it's just Mel talking to Mama Medarda. Honestly, I love how they're obviously arguing with each other through the other council members. You really get the feeling that these two have done this a lot. The only bug in my bonnet about the whole situation is this thing.
Then it's settled. 2-1.
Then it's settled. 2-1.
It happens a lot this season, and it annoys me personally, so times people repeat things other people said to be sassy. Then, Caitlyn is opening mail when her dad walks in. He's clearly going through it, and I feel sad for him. Right up until he says this.
What is she still doing here?
I know you're grieving, but that's your daughter's girlfriend, man, what the hell? To be fair to him, though, they don't last long after this. Caitlyn tries to recruit Vi into joining the Enforcers, and she refuses, because, yeah, of course she does. Caitlyn has the nerve to be surprised by this, and they have another breakup scene in the rain. We'll see how long it lasts this time. Vi goes to sulk, because that's what the move is post-breakup, and she meets Flat Face Man. The two of them bond over holding bottle, and pause. Let me ask you a question, especially those of you who have actually watched the full season. Who is this man? Can you tell me anything about him? What's his job? Does he have one? Why is he sitting on the streets of Piltover covered in newspapers? Is he homeless? We don't know. He asks Vi.
You, lose someone in the attack?
Which I think is supposed to imply that he lost someone in the blast, but like, who? What was his name, even? We actually do learn that one, but not until episode 8 of 9. It's Loris, by the way, but like, he's Flatface Man. At some point, Jace and Mel have a talk about Victor, who has been just encased in the goo. Jace is sad and moping about the lab, and given the circumstances, Mel is very supportive of her boyfriend's ungooning. Honestly though, this is a very sweet moment for these two. This also leads into Caitlin hanging out in a garden, fantasizing about, I'm sure she's doing fine. So anyway, now Flat-Faced Man and Vi are hanging out getting publicly drunk. They're chilling until Vi is approached by one of the two new additions to the cast, Fish and Woman, and thank goodness we actually get a name for one of them.
Junior Officer Nolan. Maddie.
Maddie is, like, starstruck to meet Vi, who is visibly publicly drunk, and gushes about she's one of the good ones, and how Caitlin fought so hard to get her on the police force, which causes Vi to have a little bit of a, oh no, was I too mean moment, which, no, you weren't, Vi. Fishman is stoic because he has 0 speaking lines in the entire season. I'm not anti having mute characters, by the way. Isha is mute, we'll get there, and I think it's actually really cool. But I don't know if Fishman is mute, or shy, or really constipated the whole time, because I don't know anything about him, and I never will. I was making fun of Flat-Faced Man for having a name drop on episode 8, but you know when we get a name for this guy? The League of Legends spin-off game, Teamfight Tactics. I'd say we'll talk about him later, but we won't, so... The bell goes off, and Maddie is like, back to work-a-woo, and Vi follows her because she's been guilt-tripped, and we see that Piltover is holding a memorial for all those dead council members. Mel gets up there to deliver a speech that I'm gonna play for you. Let's talk about it.
One of the many privileges of serving as your counselor is having the occasion now and again to stand behind this podium. To behold so many, joined together not by birth or dictum, but by all that we share. Our hope, our curiosity, our compulsion to leave behind us a world better than that before. These things we share are what make us one people.
So, like, we all watched season 1. We know this is a nothing speech, right? You are not one city united. That's what the whole of last season was about. We can see the difference in front of our eyes. And the first time I watched this season, I went, aha, I see what you're doing, Arcane. It's a bad speech on purpose. We're not buying it. We know the Undercity isn't buying it. This is a setup for the fight that's about to happen. Because, oh yeah, Vi spots this guy and ambles harmlessly after him until she's stopped by enforcers, which lets him get up on stage. He does this fake out. And then sets off a flare that calls in the airship. Okay, pause again. Good thing there was such heavy cloud cover. That would have been real awkward on a clear day. Also, the ship has this face, which is clearly trying to make us go, oh my god, Jinx is here, we're finally seeing, no. She's not in this episode. This ship belongs to this Kim Baron. She's here because she's grumpy that Jace killed her kid, which, fair. Also, why does this Kim Baron have a ship that looks like this? Anyway, like 90% of the rest of this episode is just this fight, so let's cover the highlights. Jace gets horror movie chased around by this Kim Baron, he gets hit, he hits her with a very funny tiny hammer, and is then saved by Vi. This happens. Okay, I know it doesn't make sense, but it does make me laugh, and this scene is short on decent laughs. Meanwhile, the 3 new characters are running around getting beaten up by this big ol' guy, and nothing of consequence happens. Caitlin is being a cop, and we get this shot. Now, for y'all who are not as insane about this show as I am, this is a second-for-second remake of this shot from Season 1. That original shot is about the Enforcers being horrible monsters. So is it trying to impart that significance on Caitlin? That's weird if so, right? She hasn't started her villain arc yet, so why is this here? Granted, she's about to, but that really only happens at the end of this episode. Anyway, Mama Medarda saves the day at the last moment. We get this close-up of Maddie's really terrible ponytail, and then Vi and Kate get to bond over almost dying. Anyway, the counselors call a meeting. Sallow is crashing out, and then Kate barges in. Sallow tells her to get out, and she answers,
I am a decorated officer, leader of House Kiraman. Address me with respect, or keep your mouth shut.
Hang on, play that again?
I am a decorated officer.
Not true, Kate. You got fired last season.
Leader of House Kiraman.
Sure, but like, does that really mean anything important? Kate doesn't even seem to have inherited her mother's seat on the council, so I think this might just mean that, like, she's rich.
Address me with respect, or keep your mouth shut.
Alright, girl boss moment, but you do not have the credentials for this. Anyway, Mama Medarda is all impressed, and Kate introduces her new cop squad, which consists of Caitlin, For your squad of elite policemen, did you just recruit 2 women you find hot, a hobo, and a fish? This is why you were fired last season. By the way, Victor's totally coming back. It ain't no thing. So all in all, I know I've been kinda sassy, but this is a fine first episode. It's not great, and I can see that we're rushing double time to get through as much setup as possible, so I understand that some corners have to be cut. I'm mostly just distracted by how much worse the dialogue is so far. Like, people don't talk like this. Like, yeah, no one talks how people talk in movies, but this is extra bad. In Season 1, you were able to use dialogue to establish entire characters in seconds. Take the very first scene where we meet Milo and Clagger. This is my favorite example of this. Vi and Powder watch an airship fly overhead, and Powder says,
"One day, I'm gonna ride in one of those things."
To which Milo enters and replies,
And one day, I'm gonna shoot one of them down.
God, it's his first line in the entire show, and you immediately know what is up with this guy. It's incredible, the way he sucks right off the bat. And then Clagger opens his mouth, and his first line is,
Vi, are you sure about this?
and you go, oh, so Clagger is the careful one. God, it's so succinct, it's so effective. Season 1 is so good. Ugh. Meanwhile, who are these 3? But to be so real for a second, this is a fine opening, and it's even pretty good. Where's Jinx, though? Oh, there she is. She's in the water laying Silco to rest. This is sort of another why not how moment. I don't know how she managed to move Silco's body on her own into the water and drop him in without anyone noticing, but I understand why. We're doing the baptism scene from... Oh, they remind you. Jinx is really upset that her dad is dead, again. In fact, she even says,
Except this time, you aren't here to put it all back together. Could someone put all those holes in you?
Jinx, you did that. You know you did. That's the whole sitting in the chair thing was about, right? Whatever. She screams, oh yeah, baby, we're back. Roll credits. We get this very confusing shot, followed by the sucker music video, and I don't hate this. The symbolism is pretty good. I think the music goes hard. It's all fine. I'm mostly just surprised at how passive Jinx is being right now. Remember how she got when she was upset before? Yeah, this is a change. But again, it's fine. I'm sure I just don't see the vision yet. Anyway, this kid falls on her head. We don't learn her name until later, but this is Isha, and I have complicated feelings about Isha. We'll talk more about this after episode 6. Isha is being chased by some Kembaran goons, and Jinx kills them all basically instantly, and then...
You feel it? That buzzing behind your eyes? Because you know in a moment they could all... Boom! Best feeling in the world, kid. Yep, that's me. You ever need a curse a sibling or a family or a society? My card.
So, like, the first time I watched these episodes, this was the first moment when I felt my conviction waver. Something is wrong here. But hey, if anyone can do this right, Arcane can. Right? Anyway, Isha imprints on her immediately and starts following her around like a baby duckling. I wonder if Jinx is going to find out more about her. Nope, we never learned anything else about Isha. Those shots of her running through those pipes is her entire backstory. We'll never get flashbacks about who she was before this exact moment. This is it. And okay, that's fine if we start to establish a strong character for her now, but like, you'll see. Anyway, enough of the characters we like, we need more new ones in here. This Ratman, do you remember him? Neither did I. He's a Kembaran, and he does have a name, but like, Ratman is getting high off his own supply and harassing his own men for no clear reason. Turns out he's attending a meeting with the surviving Kembarans, those being this guy, this woman, Ratman, and hey, Savika's here. They're not doing well with the occupation of Zon by Piltover. Ratman points out that if they hand over Jinx, it'll stop. Uh-oh, we know how much Jinx and Savika hate each other. I hope she's...
We don't hand over our people.
Oh, okay. So Savika is the ultimate Zon loyalist, so I see how she could have come to that conclusion, but at the same time, I feel like she'd be the first person to sell someone out for the good of the movement, right? So yeah, Savika doesn't want to give up Jinx, and Ratman is giving her sass about it. After the meeting, Savika storms off to Silco's room and has a little bit of a menti view, sharing about how she's still stuck cleaning up after him. And oopsie, Jinx is here. She was hanging out in the rafters like she used to when Silco was alive, because it's the time of day that Silco would ask her to do the eye medicine thing. So for a second it seems like these two might fight, but instead they start mutually complaining about Silco. Jinx eventually tells Savika she wants to watch it all burn, and then leaves with no further discussion, I guess. Also, at some point, we have a B-plot developing. Echo's accepting way more refugees into his treehouse than usual because he is literally just the best, and he notices that it's gotten infected with hexcore goop juice. Meanwhile, Victor's awake, but he is not doing well, talking like a robot with limbs made out of metal spaghetti. Jace gives him a little blankie while Victor is putting together that Jace totally betrayed his final request. Within a few minutes of getting out of the goo, Victor notes his new metal body, does this to his cane, breaks up with Jace, starts hallucinating the ghost of that one dead grad student, and leaves. And Jace lets him. I know you're going through it, my guy, but that man is gonna keel over like a wet leaf. Don't just let him walk out. He needs soup and a bed that is not just a goo wall. Anyway, a man and his hamster break into the university, and like, the scene, okay?
Don't you essentially own this place?
To be fair, when this clip aired before the show completely out of context, I laughed. I'm not so lost in the sauce that I can't laugh at the funny furry man, okay? But like, I watch the scene now, and I remember how much gravitas Heimerdinger had in the first season. He had his playful moments, but he was serious, intellectual. This Heimerdinger knows, or like he should know, that the council has been bombed. His people are dead. This is exactly the worst case scenario that he was scared of in season 1. I really wanted to see his reaction to that. But instead we get jokes? I don't know, it kinda sucks. Anyway, Jace gets excited thinking he sees another child, but no, it's just Heimer. And as soon as Jace realizes this, he songs back into his post-breakup malaise. Also, he offers them tea, and I love this happening in the background. Turns out it's possible to be cute and funny and not also destroy a character. Back to the rat, his people see that one of the Chem Barons have been attacked with gas. Huh. Is this the work of the other Chem Barons, or...? Jinx is also hanging around Zon again, this time back in the arcade. She has this fun little montage where she builds something, and then stands back to admire her work before gas starts seeping in. Turns out this isn't just like a Zon thing, it's being orchestrated by who else but Caitlin Kierman and her cop squad. Jinx reacts poorly both to the gas and to the reveal that her sister is complicit. And honestly, yeah, if I found out my sister was gassing my city, I'd also be pretty pissed. Jinx fakes like she's gonna shoot Vi, but she just can't do it. Probably because Vi isn't her dad. She gets chased around the arcade before using the funny cutouts to escape, and Caitlin gets so angry she discharges her weapon out of frustration. So she's doing great. Jinx runs away crying and is immediately attacked by Smeech's men because Girly Pop just cannot catch a break. By the way, I wouldn't have noticed this if it didn't pop up in other videos about this, but I think Smeech ends up being the only one Jinx ever tells about killing Silco. That's really weird to think about, right? Surely Savika would have some choice words for her about it? Well, speak the devil, because Savika does show up. Just a few seconds too late to overhear anything. First Heimer and now this. We're kind of being robbed of any interesting reactions to the end of the last season, huh? Anyway, Savika completely fails to shoot Smeech's men, which I think is very funny because of course she can't shoot, she's a brawler. No sooner do the words leave my mouth than Jinx chucks her the things that she's been carrying around, and it turns out to be a new arm. Wow, check out the bells and whistles on this thing. The following fight isn't terribly interesting aside from its spectacle, but it's definitely a spectacle. Also, Isha shows up again. And also, I get to bring back that counter from the first episode because holy shit, you guys.
But I promise, it's the last offer you're gonna get.
You forget, Smeech? You already made your last offer.
Haven't I done you enough favors?
Haven't I done you enough favors?
Me? I'm the kind of guy who likes to get in close.
You're the kind of guy who likes to get in close.
Bird without a wing's just a funny-looking rat.
Who's a funny-looking rat now?
I need to talk to whoever wrote the dialogue for this show because, oh my god, it's going to drive me nuts. Which is what I would say if I didn't think they were just going to repeat back everything I said to them in a sassy voice. Also, hey, did you see this? Alright, get ready for the sidebar of your life, because we're going to talk about Jinx and her attitude around a physical touch. In Season 1, Jinx is extremely physical with the people she likes. This sort of plays out uncomfortably around Silco most of all. Like, it seems like every scene they have together, she's in his lap, leaning on him, hugging him. Some people would argue that this is supposed to be taken in a more intentional way. I don't agree. Jinx has always struck me as basically a sexless character. She's essentially a child. And Silco, too, shows no interest in anything of that sort the entire show. Strikingly unlike Savika, who, may I remind you, is one of Babette's regulars, because she's freaky like that. Maybe that's why Tumblr is so thirsty for her. But on top of that, sure, the framing in this shot is a bit suspect with it being centered on her ass, but pay attention. This hug is exactly the same as this hug. This is just a thing Jinx does. She leans, she hugs, she touches. There's something to touching people around you that can sort of really keep you grounded when your brain is acting up, which Jinx is really prone to. So, how is she about touching strangers? Well, fight with Savika, leaning on her in her face and her personal bubble. Kidnapped Caitlyn, leaning on her chair, all up in her face. Chuck the bartender gets a hug. I'm seeing a pattern developing. Why are you wasting my time on this, Mochi? Well, I'll tell you why. Because Season 2 characterizes Jinx as being very uncomfortable with physical touch. She flinches away from Isha in this scene when they bump shoulders. There's an important scene in Act 2 that I'm not covering today, but also suggests that Jinx doesn't like to touch people. And listen, I don't hate the idea on its face. I think there's actually a lot of merit in the idea that Jinx is extremely touchy and yet extremely bothered by strangers touching her. But that just isn't the case from what we saw in Season 1. This is such a weird example of Season 2 just disregarding the characterization in Season 1, you know? And man, I sort of have a hard time criticizing it, because I genuinely do think it's one of the little touches in Season 2 that I might actually like better than Season 1. But for all I know, this wasn't a conscious choice. It might have just been that the writers forgot how she was in Season 1. You know, like they did for Vi. And Caitlyn. And Ambessa. And anyway, what's happening? Oh yeah, Victor is still loose on the streets of Zon. He's hallucinating footprints now. Someone, please get this man some medical attention. Not you, Jace. Anyway, he's attacked by a group of Shimmer junkies led by this guy. Remember him? Huck, got threatened, Shimmer addict. They try to act tough, but Victor is zonked out on Hexcore and ignores all that. He lays his hands on him and he gets, purified? Wow, it even fixed his hairline. Huck tearfully kneels in front of Victor, who tells them that they need not suffer anymore, before looking lovingly up at Sky. Is the Jesus allegory subtle enough for you? I think we can actually make it even more obvious, guys, I don't know. So yeah, while episode 1 was focused on our Piltover leads, this episode flips the script and has us down in Zon. But I don't know, does Jinx seem off to anyone else? Savika, maybe? This scene especially, I felt excited when I first saw Jinx up in the rafters above Silco's desk, because that's always a signifier of their closeness and trust, and I was really yearning for some examination of his death, but this wasn't it. I don't think these two would be acting like this, I really don't. Anisha sure does exist, doesn't she? It's okay though, it's okay. There's room to grow here. After all, we're not even done with the arc yet. And we know how good Arcane is with finishing its arcs. Right? Episode 3. Let's do this. So first things first, Caitlyn gets her police brutality music video montage, in which a significant chunk of the plot of this episode happens. Caitlyn is gassing the Undercity on purpose. She arrests both the remaining Chem Barons, and they are never seen again. And Piltover establishes a military presence in Zon. Oh, yeah, did you miss that? Can't imagine why. There was a whole montage dedicated to it. That clearly communicates at least one episode's worth of plot, don't you think? I know what I said about there being more problems here than just a time crunch, but man, it's feeling crunchy in here. Anyway, I'm sick of music videos, so roll those credits. Kate and Vi's cop squad find this guy who's been tied up by Jinx, and Caitlyn immediately is like, "You're going to prison for life," and Vi gives her a significant look. Oh, thank God, Vi is finally coming to her senses a bit. I mean, we all know that Vi is actively betraying herself by being on the police squad, and I'm sure Caitlyn being an actual war criminal with the gas attacks isn't helping. Maybe Vi is about to talk some sense into her girlfriend. So Vi pulls Caitlyn aside to have a private discussion, and then tells her to send the Irrelevant 3 back topside. Oh, well, not what I was thinking, but okay. She says that it's because Jinx is gonna freak them out too much, and sure, but more to the point, I think Jinx would fucking kill them, right? Echo of episode 3, kill off the 3 spares to prove how evil she is? No? Okay. That's fine, there's still room in this conversation for— oh. Well, on the one hand, hell yeah. Kate and Vi was such a big ship from Season 1, with good reason, and I'm told they're a popular ship in the base game as well. So from that perspective, it's great to see the ship get confirmed. And on top of that, oh my god, a sapphic kiss on screen. I can never get too mad at scenes like this, even when I think they're badly done, because holy crap! I remember being a middle schooler with an unsupportive family in an unsupportive small town. The most rep you got was a cheap set of pride pins at the local Kohl's. This sort of scene matters, this kiss is important, I'm right there with you! But there is another hand. See, as much as I was overjoyed by the scene on the first watch, it still comes at the expense of having a much-needed conversation from both of these characters. I can't believe Vi didn't take the chance to try and cool Caitlyn down from some of her war criming. It's not like her. And I understand that Caitlyn is sliding quickly into villainhood, but I would have loved to see a softer side of her with Vi, away from the others. That's romantic, isn't it? But at the same time, confirmed sapphic romance is so rare. I don't know. Two things can be true at once, I guess?
Shut up. It's just a goodbye hug.
Anyway, B-plots are happening. Remember how Ambessa is in town? Well, she's chilling with her little boy Rictus, and they have a guest, and it's— Amara? This woman from Season 1, if you don't remember, which is completely fair. I think she might have, like, 3 lines. I like this reveal because it puts us in the same spot as Ambessa a little bit. Because why the flying fuck would Amara have business with Ambessa? The quippy beginning here I could stand to lose. But this follow-up, oh, that's good. Oh my god, guys, there's still good writing in here. God, it actually hurts me when I think about how good Season 2 could have been if we just had this level of writing as a baseline. This isn't even that standout impressive, it's just functional. We're not being quippy for 2 seconds, we're just right there with Ambessa, and she's confused by the situation but trying not to let it on. Ugh. Anyway, magic jump scare. Turns out that Amara here is part of a faction called the Black Rose, who have had some crazy beef with Ambessa for some reason, and this is an assassination attempt. Amara tries to stab her, but Ambessa has these anti-magic rock things that save her, and she stabs Amara first. Anyway, she's not the only Medarda with a subplot. We see Mel scheming with her assistant and this funny-looking cat lady. She's basically trying to figure out what the hell her mom is actually up to, and they eventually uncover that she's setting things up for a power upset in Piltover. They'll assemble every important person and publicly put all of Piltover's power on the shoulders of Sallow, obviously acting as a puppet for Ambessa herself. Mel is freaked out about this development, but before she can do much, her assistant goes weirdly still. Turns out that she, too, was a part of the Black Rose, or is maybe just infected by them? It seems like she tries to warn Mel about this before the gnarly magic starts choking her, so was she an agent who defected, or a bystander? It's not explained, so I have no clue. Can the Black Rose just do that to anyone? Well, they can to Mel, anyway. Mel gets glommed into the Shadow Realm before she can do anything, and that's the last we'll see of her until the end of the next arc. The Brainy Boys are up to stuff, too. Echo and Jace talk a bit about how Hextech works in a scene that's mostly fine until... well, roll the clip.
I'd always presumed it was due to mankind's turbulent relationship with power. But perhaps it is a property of the Arcane itself.
No, what are you doing? Hey fans, remember the really interesting metaphor we spent all of last season setting up and exploring? Forget that. Oh my god, this bothers me so much. That concept that Heimerdinger just dismissed in the space of a single line was like the most thematic point of Season 1. Oh my god. And Heimerdinger doesn't just stop at destroying the thematic core of Season 1, oh no. He then suggests that Hextech itself is simply evil. Be so for real with me. Anyone, any fans of Season 2, in what world is that more interesting than the idea that power corrupts? Is that not the point of Caitlyn's villain arc, the one we're watching happen right now? Would she be less evil if she had a normal rifle instead of a Hextech one? Would Jace have been more resistant to corruption if his crazy invention had been mundane technology instead of magic? Jinx may not have been able to do exactly what she did without Fishbones, but are we really suggesting Jinx wouldn't have found any other way to cause mass mayhem without it? No, of course not. Literally, all this line does is set us up for the switch from Victor as good guy to Victor as villain. He's been fused with a hex core, and that means he's evil now, as if we're all too dumb to figure that out on our own. I guess Hextech was the problem, and not Piltover. No, never Piltover. And people still say that anyone who didn't like Season 2 was just reading it in bad faith. No, bestie, the bad faith is on the screen. I gotta calm down, we still have half an episode to get through. Okay. So right, the Brainy Boys. They make their way down to the power core of the Hex Gates to check out what might be messing with Echo's favorite tree. Hey, editing Mochi here because I completely forgot to mention this absolute numbnuts design for a door. Cool on the first watch, sure, but Jace made that hammer at the end of last season, which should have been years after the construction of the Hex Gates, right? Just didn't want to let that slide. Echo gets these very based few lines.
So, instead of it exploding in your neighborhood, it would blow up in ours. We're the ones that get affected. What the?
Which are unfortunately glossed over because the hamster is on screen again and finds some magic corruption juice or something. This show doesn't make this clear at all, but the fans have suggested that this funny splotch is where Victor had his nosebleed from Season 1, and I do actually like that take. Hey, on second thought, no I don't. This room is clearly enclosed by that dumb door I just mentioned, so where's this coming from? We'll get back to the bros, though. So, Vi and Kate turn up in this underground church to confront Jinx. This is it. This is the fight that's been teased since literally the first episode. And it really doesn't hold up, honestly. We'll start from the start. Vi tells Kate that if she has the shot, she should definitely take it. Hang on, didn't Smeech say...
They want you alive.
Alright, anyway. There are some dramatics, and the two sisters bicker, including these following exchanges. Let's go line by line. Jinx talks about the significance of the location as an old temple of Janna, who you have never heard of if you don't care about the games. The idea is supposed to be that Janna was once the savior of Zaun, and now Jinx is positioned to be the new savior of Zaun. Except that the audience doesn't know anything about Janna, and Jinx is not being a savior. I would argue she never is, but we'll get there when we get there. Anyway, Jinx follows up by pointing out the obvious, that Vi and Kate are gassing people, and that's vile. Vi says,
We use the Grey to clear the streets, to keep people safe.
Which is simply not how gas attacks work. Look me in the eyes and tell me these people made it out just fine, Vi. Wild behavior from the people we're supposed to be siding with. Like, I genuinely thought the first time I watched the season that this was a bad comeback on purpose, so I knew Vi had fallen from grace. No, that's not what that was. But okay, why is that such a bad response? Well, they did it to clear the streets. Clear the streets for what? Remember, we're not working with a whole squadron of enforcers who would need the streets to be cleared to, like, maneuver. You can fit this number of people in an Applebee's booth. Maybe they did it so that civilians would evacuate dangerous zones where they intended to get to the chem barons? Okay, so they did gas civilians. You can't use a gas to clear the streets without gassing the people in the streets, right? That doesn't sound like keeping people safe, Vi? It's hard to say exactly how dangerous the Grey is, since we have a weirdly wide range of what this shit can do. In Season 1, it seems almost on the level of mustard gas or something, impossible to breathe through if you don't have one of Silcoast's funny masks. And this seems confirmed in Season 2 when we see an entire street filled with... Okay, they might just be incapacitated, but I definitely took these as bodies the first time I watched it. On the other hand, Silco takes the gas like a champ in Season 1, and Jinx gets stuck in the gas for like 5 or 10 entire minutes and is like totally fine afterwards. Minus one mental breakdown, but like it's Jinx. On the third hand, Victor, see what I did there, seems to have gotten his gonna fucking die disease from breathing this stuff, so I guess maybe Vi wasn't killing civvies, she was just giving them chronic illnesses. Jinx can't be allowed to point out how stupid Vi's defense is, so instead of actually responding to the horrible thing Vi just said, Jinx says,
We never thought my sister would turn Bluebelly.
Which, to be fair, is also a good point. We've already been over why her heel turn in episode 1 feels so abrupt, but at this point, Vi has done way worse stuff than, like, normal cop stuff. She's beating innocent people, throwing random people in jail for life, gassing her own city to beat a dead horse. And we know who killed it, don't we? Anyway, Jinx gets off her one-liner and the fight starts. Pause again. Sorry, this is just what it's like to watch stuff with me. How do we think this fight is going to go? Like, logically, knowing what we know about these characters. Jinx is all about range, so she's going to be trying to keep her distance. Meanwhile, Vi is punchy, so she's trying to close the distance, right? Meanwhile, over here, it's a brawl between Kate and Savika. We've seen Savika stand up to Vi with the giant gauntlets, so we know she's a close combat powerhouse. Kate is a skinny pilty kid with a big fancy gun, so she's going to be trying to get away from her, right? Well, let's hit play and... So Jinx just jumped directly into Vi's punching range. Oh, Kate is having a punch fight with Savika and not immediately dying. Oh. I'm not here to power scale necessarily. I know why that shouldn't matter. It's not about your pure power, it's about how you use it in a fight, right? Well, that's my problem. Jinx knows her power is best at range. We spent all of Season 1 establishing that. Why is jumping into punching range her first move? Oh, she's not trying to win. Tell that to this moment when she pulls out fish bones and fires him at Vi's face. That is not a move we pull when we're trying to throw. Much the same is happening over here with Kate and Savika. That fight should be an easy win for Savika, and for some reason it's not. The in-episode argument for this is that right at this moment, the three brainy boys are messing with Hextech, and that messes up all the Hextech equipment in the room. Savika's being nerfed because her armor's wonky, Vi is being nerfed because her gauntlets are wonky, etc. And I could vibe with that. Except, however, Savika's arm isn't Hextech. We know it's made out of the scrap from the arcade, and Jinx only has the one Hex Crystal, which at this point is still in fish bones. After rewatching the scene, it's actually even less clear why Savika is beaten by Caitlyn, because, yeah, her arm isn't Hextech. She seems to be taken out by this grapple here, where it seems like the Hextechy stuff sort of gets into her cheek or something from Caitlyn's rifle. But Shimmer and Hextech have nothing to do with each other, so... yeah, guys, I don't know. We just needed Savika to lose, I guess. Also, re-fishbones this moment here. I am not the only one who initially took this moment as Vi abandoning her gauntlets at the last moment to dodge the fishbones rocket. I would actually love it if that's what happened, because on the one hand, it makes logical sense, and on the other hand, it's symbolic. It's the whole idea behind this season, which is, if you leave the violence behind, you can love each other again. If Vi left her gauntlets behind, left her violence behind, that could set us up nicely for the last part of the fight. Think of how thematically rich it would be if both the sisters were stripped of their various tools during the fight, and it all came down to just the two of them. Wouldn't that be cool? I'd like to see that. But, no. She's still wearing those suckers. Just got lucky here, I guess. The fight continues on, and there are a lot of moments in which the fight should just kinda be over. Like here, or here. There isn't any interesting choreography going on, it's just moving our characters from one cool pose to another cool pose. And sure, it looks cool, but there's no substance here. I think that's my whole review for Season 2. The end of each arc in the first season hits so hard because you can logically follow every decision made by every character beat for beat until it ends up in this horrifying, tragic conclusion. The fact that the show is stunningly beautiful is the icing on the cake. You know, yeah, this show is breathtaking. Check out these videos because TV Sky explains it better than I could. But here, all you've given me is a plate of icing. Yeah, it looks very cool, I'll give you that, but I don't feel anything about this fight. This doesn't feel like the moment when Powder leapt into Silco's arms. It doesn't feel like the flare lighting up. It feels like I'm walking by a store in a mall with big cardboard cutouts of these characters in the window. Anyway, at some point, Kate gets away from Savika long enough to shoot off Jinx's finger, which gives Vi enough time to pin her in place and prepare for the final blow. And man, this is another moment where, when Jinx's finger gets fired off, I felt like I should be feeling something. This should be a big moment for Jinx. This is the largest injury she's sustained, well, since the Shimmer thing, but you know. This should be big. This should be the first time that Vi has really hurt her sister. That should mean something. But we blow right past it. Jinx has her little go ahead and kill me moment, which does not make sense given the fight we just watched, and then... Wait. Huh? Whoa. Okay. Why is the kid here? No, pause. We're pausing again. Okay. Okay. Let's zoom out a little. The whole idea of this fight is that it's supposed to be Jinx's elaborate suicide note, right? She baits her sister into killing her, and then Vi gets to live happily ever after with her girlfriend, but not before Jinx gets one last laugh in with the paint bombing that's going to happen in a second. So I understand why Jinx would bring Savika here. She sort of needs Savika to pull the switch when she's dead, right? Why is the kid here? What part of Jinx's brain is like, yes, I will bring this kid with me to witness my messy death? Some people are probably pointing out that she never wanted to be left behind as a kid herself, and that's why Yisha is here, but at this point, there's very little connection between these two. This is supposed to be the moment that solidifies their relationship, right? And to be clear, I would be fine if the kid snuck in here after Jinx without her knowing. I actually think that would be really cool because it gives Isha some needed characterization. But that's not what happens because of this shot a little earlier on. So what gives? Why did you bring her, Jinx? This is why it's so hard to talk about this season of the show. Everything is a little bit wrong in a way that compounds and compounds on everything else until it's all weird and tangled up together. So anyway, the kid dramatically throws herself between Jinx and Vi, and everyone freezes because, yeah. Kate is still in murder mode though, so Vi steps off to try and convince her not to take the shot after all, but Kate isn't listening and she shoots into the ground because Vi managed to grab her rifle just in time. Jinx looks over with big puppy dog eyes like, my sister protected me, woo. And Vi looks at Caitlyn like... And then over in the corner, Savika decides that this is a great time to end the situation. Wind blasts Vi and Kate out through the wall and collapses the tunnel behind them, and then we get this scene. Watch this scene with me. So the visual language of the scene is that Jinx has just gassed Piltover, right? Well, the answer is I don't know. This is so weird. I've never watched something and then had to ask myself, did what I just watched happen? Because yeah, it looks like Jinx has blown the Grey back into Piltover. I like that. It's a sort of a weird redemption thing, saving Zaun from the Grey, and it's also an act of terrorism, which is good for Jinx. It sets her up as being kind of scary, which is something she really lacks this season. But there are no reactions of anyone dealing with the Grey afterward. Everyone reacts like all she's done is spray paint everywhere, which, disruptive, but not dangerous. There is this one shot of a random kid wearing a gas mask later, but this is the one thing that even references this happening afterwards. So did it happen? We may never know. Back bottom side, Kate and Vi pop out of the ground and have another breakup fight, except it isn't raining this time, so you know it's real. Vi is angry that Kate would risk shooting at an innocent kid, and Kate is angry that Vi would stop her. Anyway, Kate hits Vi and abandons her. Apparently, the writers have some really weird takes about this scene, but I'm here to analyze the fiction, not the people, so moving right along. Whatever Jinx actually did, she also definitely handed Mbessa a bunch of soil for Piltover. Mbessa isn't about to waste a golden opportunity to march in and declare herself the military leader of Piltover, and she basically picks their leader, who turns out to be Caitlyn. And for as much as a hater as I've been, I want to talk about this scene positively, because honestly, I think it's one of the coolest shots in this season of the show. I love the building tension of the thumping, the intensity of Mbessa's facial expression, the feeling as Kate decides to go with it. It's all really good. I think this scene is maybe the most earned scene in the show, if that makes sense. And yeah, Caitlyn's a villain now. I really can't wait to see how that goes. Just a few final threads to tie up now. The Brain Boys sort of get absorbed by the Hextech funny bubble and will not be seen again until Arc 3. Fantastic. Time management, guys. And that's a wrap for the first arc. This is gonna take forever to edit, but hey, at least I know where all the clips are. I remember once, a friend gave me a random episode and timestamp from Season 1 and asked me what scene was playing, and I was able to answer correctly. I'm not well. So, that was Arc 1. These were the first 3 episodes that were dropped when the season came out, and I think it's safe to say that it's no Season 1. There's a lot of setup, but at the time my friends and I were still optimistic. There were a few things in here that I really do like, even though a lot of it is rocky. That scene of Caitlyn being peer-pressured into dictatorship is actually so good, genuinely. The thing is, I ended up feeling mostly like we were rushing and tripping over our own feet a few times in the process. But I say mostly because there's something else going on here, right? Characters don't feel like themselves, they feel weird, almost like we're watching fanfic. Vi's being incredibly passive even though her intense drive is what controlled so much of Season 1. She's had a hard turn into hating her sister and throwing her whole lot in with Caitlyn, despite Caitlyn repeatedly treating her quite badly, and seemingly completely forgetting that she could also be hanging out with the Firelights, who spent all of Season 1 opposing Jinx. Isn't Vi super family motivated? Shouldn't she want to check in on Echo at the very least? Hell, failing that, haven't we seen that Vi is independent enough to go it alone if needs be? Shouldn't she be down in the Undercity tracking down her sister instead of hanging around getting drunk in the streets of Piltover? It's really weird to me how much Season 2 seems to dislike its own protagonist. Jinx is also being really passive, just sort of wandering around until Isha fell on her head. Engineering the fight and then the paint bombing seems a bit more like her, but we're spared so much of the impact of what is effectively terrorism that she still comes away defanged, as it were. It's weird, but I think it explains a lot about the state of her in this season. See, Jinx in Season 1 has her lovable moments, but she was also really scary. When she's just done the butterfly bombing and is walking along the bridge picking off survivors, she's horribly callous. And when she's talking to herself, or hallucinating, or failing to recognize that other people don't mean her harm, she's being off-putting. That makes her weird, unlikable. But if you are, say, Riot Games, and Jinx is your most recognizable branding, then you kind of don't like that, do you? In fact, your job of selling skins or whatever gets a lot easier if the biggest face on all the posters is, well, likable. Has her edges sanded off. And what can you do to make a character likable? Well, you blow past all the worst parts of her character without acknowledging them, and you make her quippy so the audience laughs, and maybe you even slap a cute companion on them. And honestly, that's not even pointing out that if we're going to make Jinx face consequences for maybe gassing a city, then that means we have to take a good long look at Caitlyn too, and we can't have that. Caitlyn is genuinely kind of unrecognizable this season. I remember watching Season 1 right after finishing Season 2 and being stunned at the difference. Remember when she traded away her fancy gun for medicine to save Vi's life? Can you imagine Season 2 Caitlyn doing that? Because I can't. I really thought Kate and Vi were a cute odd couple in Season 1, but I want to separate these two in Season 2 kind of badly. They're not good for each other. I don't know how I feel about Jace particularly, because to be honest, Jace feels the most in character so far. Or maybe it's more that it was always in Jace's nature to change what he believes at the drop of a hat and change course depending on whatever was in front of him. So maybe he just suffers the least from whatever is happening. But anyway, I fully buy that he would go back on his promise to Victor if it meant saving his life. Maybe less that he would then turn around and build Hextech weapons, but compared to everyone else, I really do think Jace comes away the least ruined. Speaking of Victor, what is going on with him? It really does feel like the real Victor died in the rocket blast, and this is some new guy entirely. He's a little bare bones in this arc, so I'll reserve more discussion about him for later. Similarly, I was excited to see more of Echo on screen, but we didn't really get that, did we? He's fine when he's included, but he's just not included that much. I'm oddly let down by the portrayal of Heimerdinger this season. Listen, I'm not some huge Donger fan, but I think he was a needed voice of caution in the first season. After all, everything he was warning could go wrong effectively did. I really wanted to see him somberly reflecting on the deaths of his new colleagues, and maybe helping Piltover recover with the new perspective he would have gained from meeting Echo. But no, instead we've got silly jokes. Don't look at the dead bodies, look at the funny hamster man. Mel was a really interesting part of Season 1, and for precisely one episode, she felt like she was staying that way. I really like that she argues with her mother through the use of the other counselors. It really feels appropriate for both her relationship with Ambessa and her role as the sorta kinda leader of the council. But then, she isn't in Episode 2, and in Episode 3 she's zorped into the Shadow Realm before she can do anything. I guess we'll see what happens. Ambessa is an interesting type, because I think she's the only character who I've come away liking more than in Season 1. In Season 1, she's threatening, looming, but ultimately not all that important. But in this season, the reveal that she orchestrated the attack on the Piltover statue to give herself more sway over the council, babe. I think I might be a bit dumb, because I seem to have been the only person who was genuinely surprised by that twist, but honestly it thrilled me. I don't think I fully follow why she decided to bank hard left and support Caitlyn as a dictator instead of following through with Sallow, but I also just don't think that's as big a deal as some of the other things I've talked about. Ambessa is a political schemer. If she thinks Caitlyn will serve her better, she's going to pick Caitlyn. Something something, Noxian values. So yeah, it's weird that so many characters are coming out of this season looking wrong, especially our main girls. It feels like so much of the most interesting consequences that have come from the bombing in Episode 9 have just been steered around. No inspection of Silco's death and how that affects anyone who isn't Jinx, and honestly, barely an inspection of it for her. No inspection of the bombing of the Council and how Heimerdinger might feel about the politics going on. Savika has really been glossed over basically entirely, and good lord, I've touched on it a bit, but who the hell is writing the dialogue this season? Why does everyone suddenly sound like a Marvel character? Anyway, that's about all the steam I have for this one. Join me next time for a look into the second arc of Season 2, which is at once my favorite and least favorite arc of the season. We'll get there when we get there, but that one's a doozy. Anyway, I've been Mochihiro. Thank you so much for sticking around and having a listen. If you think it's cool and fun, you can tap the like button or leave a comment telling me what you thought about the second season. Have a good one, my friends, and stay safe out there. You know, between Jinx staying underwater for her first whole scene, and then also just tanking that gas attack like it's nothing, have we considered that maybe she just doesn't breathe? The less you think. The League of Legends spin-off game. Are you done?
I love you.
It's okay, I love you too.
Sorry.